Welcome to this lesson in Arduino microcontrollers. Today we're going to be learning how to use the DHT11 humidity and temperature sensor. Now this is a good step forward in everything we've covered, from controlling lights and physical push buttons and also learning the serial monitor command. This is going to allow us to connect a device to, well, measure the humidity and temperature in the room. We're going to be covering things like using different libraries to help your code run. We'll be working more with a serial monitor command so we can actually see what's going on. And this is going to be a stepping stone into kind of one of our bigger projects, which is to create the humidity sensor attached to an LCD display. Right, now that we have that ready, I have my sketch set up. Hopefully you've created your new sketch. I've already titled mine in the comment section, DHT11 lesson. You can title it what you want or leave it blank. And I've already created my little spacing here just to make it easier to see for you guys. All right, over on the left-hand side, you may have noticed that in Arduino Web Editor, you have this option here called Libraries. If you click on Libraries, you're given all of these pre-made code packages, basically, that you can then use a macro in your code to call that code up, and it's just cool and it saves you a lot of time. So in here, we could do a search for the DHT sensor. Unfortunately, we haven't enabled the DHT sensor or the library yet, so we need to click on Library Manager up here, and then you, of course, would want to do a search for DHT, and then you can see here we have a few different ones. We'll go with this first one, the DHT sensor library. I'll go ahead and click that, and I'll click Done, and you can see now we have our DHT library ready to go. So on line 4, let's go ahead and start typing. Okay, so we're going to use our first command, which is called include, and this is going to help us understand or help our program understand it needs to include the specific library. So we're going to do the hashtag include, then in quotation we'll go DHT in all caps .h, and end quotation and hit enter. And then we're going to need to define the pin, or where the DHT is being connected, and we'll use that with the command define. So we'll do the hashtag and then type in define, and we'll do DHT pin, and we're going to put this one on 2. After that, we need to define the specific type of sensor that we are using, so we'll do the hashtag and go define, and then DHT type. So, helps if I type correctly. So define DHT type, and we're going to call it DHT11. So we'll go DHT and in caps. There we go. We add the 11 in, and after that, what we're going to do, our next step is we're going to need to initialize the DHT sensor. To do that, we just type in DHT in all caps, then in lowercase DHT, and we're going to do in parentheses DHT pin and DHT type. So what's happening is we're saying that program DHT needs to run DHT on our DHT pin, which we've assigned as number 2, using DHT type, which is 11. I know that sounds a lot, but that's actually a whole lot of DHT, and it all makes perfect sense. Now that we have that set up, let's go into our void. I almost made a serious mistake. We need to add a semicolon after our DHT, DHT, DHT pin, DHT type. But not these ones up here, because we're using these commands of including a library and defining a pin. And as just a brief explainer on that, defining something actually uses no programming memory, which is kind of helpful for us if we're looking at keeping our programs running a little faster. Now that we have that, let's jump into our void setup, and we're going to start with the serial begin command, and we're going to set that baud rate at 9600. And make sure we add our semicolon. Then we do our serial print line because we want to make sure that it is enabling. So we go serial print ln, and then in parentheses we'll go F start parentheses again, and we're going to type in quotations DHT 11 test exclamation point, end quotation mark, end parentheses, end parentheses, semicolon, and hit enter, and we'll get our DHT running. And to do that, we'll do DHT dot begin, start parentheses, end parentheses, semicolon. And that's going to enable the DHT to get that running for us. Next, what we're going to do is jump into our void loop, and we're going to be putting our delay at the beginning. So we'll do delay, and we're going to, oops, that was a mistake there. We need to do delay and then do 2000. We want it to be on a 2-second loop there, so delay 2 seconds and hit enter. Next, what we need to do is it's going to need to read the sensor, the humidity sensor. It takes, with the DHT, about 250 milliseconds, give or take. So it is very rapid, so giving us 2 full seconds allows us to cycle through the next 3 things. What we're going to be using is the float command. Now, float means that it's taking a string of numbers with a specific set of decimal points, and it's allowing that number to change and move how it needs to. So we're going to use a float, and then we're going to do h is equal, or is equal sign, DHT dot read humidity. Make sure you have a capital on the H, so read humidity, start parenthesis, end parenthesis, semicolon, and hit enter. Then we'll go again with the float command. So we'll do float T is DHT dot read temperature, start parenthesis, end parenthesis, semicolon, and float F is DHT dot read temperature, start parentheses, true, semicolon. Okay. So what essentially we've just told it to do is we're doing a delay, creates a number command, a floating number command, that basically reads and can analyze, and we have float H is going to be our humidity, so it's reading our humidity. We have float T, which is going to be reading our temperature, which is going to be in Celsius. That's actually the default. Sorry, I got distracted here. Is the default, so Celsius is the default, and then float F. There we go. That's why that wasn't highlighting. Read temperature, and caught that there. You can see that even I make mistakes, and that's okay. So float F is reading the temperature true. Essentially, we're just going to have it convert into Fahrenheit for us to read. And just so we understand this, I actually want us to go in and comment. So to do a comment, remember 2 slashes, and we'll do humidity read. After float T, or the next line, we'll do slash slash, and we'll do temp in capital C, so temp in Celsius. And then on this one, the float F, we'll do slash slash temp in capital F. So we know it's in Fahrenheit. That's just going to help us remember as we go on in coding. Before we get it to actually start printing our temperatures for us, we need to do something else, and that is creating a return. So essentially what's going to happen is our Arduino is going to be reading float H, T, and F, and then what happens is if it comes back as a failure when it does that, it's going to let us know that it failed to read the DHT sensor, and it's going to try again. Now, many things can happen. Maybe there's interference from electrical equipment or EMF frequencies that way. Maybe a pin got unplugged. It's just going to be a convenient way for us to see that it is not working, and more importantly, allows us to then begin troubleshooting instead of just getting a whole bunch of weird readings that make no sense. how we're going to do this is we're going to create the if, essentially an if-then command. So we're going to do if, and then in parentheses, we're going to use what's called an isNan, or is not a number command. This is a way that the coding language can interpret if a number being returned is not an actual value. So we'll go isNan, and then start parentheses, h. Okay. Then we'll use this little cool slashy. It's not a like forward slash or a backslash, it's just a straight down slash, and I'm sure it has an actual name and I'm forgetting it right now, but that's okay. We're going to do it again here with isNan, start parenthesis, t, in parentheses, and if you can guess what's coming up, we're going to do that cool slashy again and write isNan, and then start parentheses, f, in parentheses, and then we're going to do start curly bracket because it has to perform the specific string that we want. We're going to do a serial print line. So serial.println. Okay. And we're going to have that right as first start parentheses, capital F, start parentheses, and we'll do in quotation marks, failed to read sensor. And we'll add a few exclamation points, and you know what? Let's throw in just a frowny face in there too. End quotation mark, end parenthesis, semicolon, enter, just because we want some space, and we'll type in return. So this is going to force our program to then start over at that 2 seconds, try and read the number, and then it can go in that perpetual loop. We can go enter, end parenthesis, or actually, you know what? I saw it there, made the mistake myself. That's okay. I have this corresponding parenthesis, or curly bracket, sorry, on line 27 to 24 where I started, which is good. So I want to go after that on line 27, hit enter, and next we're going to write another float command. And that is going to be computing the index for Fahrenheit for us, and then also computing the index for Celsius. It's basically using numbers that it already has pre-built into the library to run the algebraic expression to convert like just the number of 0 to 255 and how that relates back to what the actual temperature is. So other people have done the smart hard work for us. So we're going to do this of a float, and we'll do hif equal and then DHT dot compute. We'll do heat index, so you can see I have, oops, need capital H and then lowercase for heat, so compute heat and then index, and we'll have it compute it for Fahrenheit, so F and comma H. So our two different float values above the heat and humidity, end parenthesis, semicolon, enter, and then we'll do another float command, float hif, and then we'll do DHT, oops, sorry, hif is DHT dot compute heat index again, so same as before. We'll do start parentheses, and we're going to do our Celsius, so T, then comma H, and then we're going to have it give a false. There we go. And in parentheses, semicolon, enter. And now this is where we can have the Arduino actually write everything. So we're going to do a whole bunch of serial print commands. So we're going to do serial.print. We'll do start parentheses, capital F, start parentheses, humidity, colon, space, enter, and then in parentheses, semicolon. Then we'll do serial.print. We'll have it print the H value for us. Then we'll do serial.print F, start parentheses, in quotation mark. We'll do %, then temperature, colon, space, end quotation mark, end curly bracket, or parentheses, and then semicolon. Like I said, we have a lot of these to get through. So we're here at F, and then we're going to do serial dot print. And we'll do the value of t. And then we'll go serial dot print. And it's going to do what the Celsius value is, so F, and then start parentheses, start quotation, and then we'll just do space C, space, end quotation mark, end parentheses, semicolon, enter. We'll do another serial dot print, and can you guess what we're going to have it print next? If we've done all of these, H, T, and that's right, our next one is going to be just our regular float value of F. And then we'll do serial dot print. And we're going to have our capital F, start parenthesis, quotation mark, and we'll do space, capital F, space, heat index, quote, colon, space, end, quotation mark, end curly bracket, semicolon, enter. I know, guys, it takes a while to do this, but it's okay. Thanks for sticking with me. We only have 2 values left here, and those are the 2 float commands of here, which is going to be the serial.print, and then we'll do... Oh, I just realized I made a horrible mistake up here. I'm glad I checked that. So basically what happened was I'm having it do the Celsius on the bottom one, and I want to change that to HIC, so float HIC. Otherwise I had 2 float characters of the same. That would have messed us up down here. So we'll do the serial.print, start parentheses, and we'll do HIF, in parentheses, semicolon, enter, and we'll do serial.print, start parentheses, capital F, start parentheses, start quotation mark. We'll do C again. Okay, we'll go this way and that, and then serial dot print, and we need this to be that HIC that we corrected. And then, if you can guess what we're doing, we'll do serial dot print, and this is going to be capital F, start parentheses, start quotation mark, space, we'll go F, and then end quotation mark, in parentheses, semicolon. Okay. And then for this, let me just read this over again, just because we've done a lot of these, and saying them out loud gets me confused sometimes. Hold on. Glad I reviewed that, because I did 2 things. I didn't, first off, do my comments up here, which would have helped me figure things out better, and that is float HIF. We should have commented so we understood that it was the heat index in Fahrenheit, and float HIC was the heat index in Celsius. Now, if we look over here, we can see I've done 2 things incorrect. First, I swapped these. So this HIF should not be responding back to a Celsius. Instead, that should be a HIC. And this HIC should not be responding in Fahrenheit. That should be responding, or the Celsius shouldn't be responding in Fahrenheit. So we've changed it to HIF, and now that matches HIF here. And then finally, on this last one, we do actually want it to print out the full line of what the Fahrenheit is. So we'll do serial.print line. Okay, now that we have that ready, we're going to want to verify that this code works and verify it. It's verifying DHT11, and we can see it's verified, and this code will in fact work. Now, I know this is a long code, and it was probably confusing with me stopping and starting and retalking and things like that. So let's just quickly go over it here within the last 2 minutes of this lesson. And that is, first we're using our include command for our DHT. So you can see I'm back at the top. I'm on my line 5. So include our DHT library. We're defining the pin, we're defining the type, and then we're setting it up. We're initializing our DHT sensor. In our void setup, we're setting our serial begin, so we're allowing our Arduino and our device to monitor what's going on. We're printing out the first line when it starts up, which is test, DHT test. And then we're going to begin the DHT sensor with DHT.begin. In our void loop, we start with a 2-second delay, and then we go in and we've created our float command. So those moving numbers that constantly change, and we want the Arduino to be able to change those numbers. They're not hard set numbers. So we have float H is our humidity, float T is our temperature, float F is our temperature in Fahrenheit. After that, we create essentially an if-then statement, or what's called an if-return statement. So we have if, and then is not a number, which is isnan, and it's reading H, T, and F, all of these float values up here. It'll come back with failing to read sensor if anything comes back with not a real number. After that, if it does that, it'll return, start over, and start the process till it gets it right. Then, after we've created our isnan, sorry, I'm just trying to clean this up for your viewing, we go here. You can see I messed up doing that. We go here and we create a new set of float numbers, and we're creating a heat index. So I have float HIF is the heat index in Fahrenheit, and float HIC is the heat index in Celsius. That was where I messed up, so make sure you go back and check that. Once we've created those heat indexes, it's going to be very important that we then underneath here go in and make sure we're doing our serial print humidity, temperature, heat index, and we have these labeled correctly of the HIC and HIF. That's where I messed up. And then again, always make sure that you do have your semicolons in the right place. Verify that your curly brackets are all corresponding. So my curly bracket 45 on line 45 is corresponding with curly bracket on line 25. So the start, line 19 here. So the start of our void loop. I have 28 corresponding with line 25, and those are the curly brackets that we have there. I know this is going to be confusing and might be a little harder if I'm not there to help and troubleshoot, but definitely read down here. It will tell you what's wrong, what's going on. Trust me on that one. I know this was a lot of coding today, but sometimes when we want to work with real sensors, we have to do more than just turning LEDs on and off. If you have any questions, if you're watching this on YouTube, please put those in the comment section. And if you're watching this through Google Classroom as part of the Arduino microcontroller elective, you can definitely leave your questions in the comment section there. And as always, you can email me. All right, everybody, have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one.